Thank you, Mr. Postmaster. All of us remember Christmas morning as a kid, the excitement, the anticipation that you felt as you waited for that morning to get there, and then as you're running down to your Christmas tree to see what kind of packages Santa had left for you. For some of us, Christmas morning was steeped in tradition. For others, there really wasn't much tradition to look forward to. It was just simply going down and seeing your packages. My wife, Katie, and I, we actually grew up in very different families. We experienced Christmas very differently. And today I'd like to share a little bit about what Christmas looked like for me, and then what Christmas looked like for Katie, and just speak a little bit about why my perception of traditions has changed. I now no longer think of a tradition as being ridiculous, but as something that is important. So, Christmas for myself growing up and my brother was very simple. We typically would wake up a couple of hours before our parents did, run down to our Christmas tree and see all the stacks of presents. We wouldn't be able to open them yet. We would get to open our stocking and play with the toys that were in that. And then we would have to wait 2 or 3 very long hours while we wait for everybody else in the family to wake up. Christmas for Katie, on the other hand, was a series of different traditions. One of the first of those traditions was one that I shared with you during our last meeting, where Katie and her siblings would sit at the top of the stairs and wake her parents up. But that wasn't the only tradition that they followed that day. After their parents would be awake, they would run down the stairs and oftentimes wind sprint to the family room where the Christmas tree was at, so they could see all those packages. And once they got there, they would typically see packages arranged in specific orders, and they knew that as soon as they found one pile of packages that had their name on it, that all of those packages were for them, and that they were arranged in a specific order. You see, her parents would have them open their packages from the smallest and least expensive present, and continually open bigger and bigger packages until they got to the main present of the year. After they had opened all of the presents, they would move to their stockings. They weren't allowed to open their stockings before presents. It was always after. And they knew that within that stocking there'd be one additional package for them, and that was always a Hallmark Christmas ornament, typically one that they picked out earlier in the season, that they would be able to put on the Christmas tree that morning, and then every Christmas after that. After the packages were done, they would have breakfast. Breakfast was always the same thing. It was an egg casserole that her parents would make the night before and put in the oven that morning. And the casserole would bake while they were opening their presents. The last tradition would be their grandparents coming over. So grandparents would always show up about the time that they're finishing up with their opening their packages. And the grandparents would stay just long enough for a cup of coffee and to give Katie and her siblings an opportunity to show them all the awesome presents that they received that year. And after the grandparents were done with their cup of coffee, they'd move on to the next family or go back home and finish preparing for the larger family Christmas later in the day. So you can imagine, Christmas morning for me was very simple. Christmas morning for my wife was a little bit more elaborate. So think back to the first time Katie was telling me about these traditions. I would tell her about my Christmas, then she rattles off this long and very involved story of all the things that they do. And my head was probably about to implode just because of the sheer amount of traditions that they did. And that was partially why I thought that their traditions were quite ridiculous. Yeah. The best part about these traditions is something that I didn't really understand until I started experiencing traditions with her family. So I've been a part of the family for several years now, so I've gotten to experience Christmas several times in a row. And I've realized that when Katie told me about her family's traditions for Christmas, she left out a couple of very important details, which she probably didn't even realize, but I noticed as I observed these. And that first detail was really that the reason behind the traditions that they do is really to build excitement. Because you just imagine as a kid waiting for Christmas morning, knowing that you can't go down to see your tree until everybody's up, and that it's 4 a.m. and you know it's going to be a few hours. So you got to wait, and you got to think, and you got to anticipate. And then when you get to when it's time to actually wake everybody up, you're sitting at the top of the stairs, going through this the script of waking your parents up, and then you're racing down to your Christmas tree, and you're opening small packages, and then another package is a little bit bigger, and continually going to larger and larger packages. The entire process just builds excitement. And when you talk to Katie and her siblings about the different Christmas traditions, those are going to be the things that they talk about, and those are the things that make it so exciting for them. Another reason that I noticed, and I actually kind of think is ingenious, is the egg casserole that her parents make. It's done the night before. It's put in the oven, and the amount of time that it takes to bake is just about the right amount of time for Katie and her siblings to open up all their presents, have a little bit of time to play with the toys, and just spend family time. But also allows her parents to be present and to see the reactions on their faces as they're going through and opening their different packages. So, and then of course, with all these traditions, the simple fact that Katie and her entire family just love the traditions that they do. It's something that they can look forward to every year, and it's something that they can talk to others about and give them exciting and fun examples. So, as I've seen these different traditions, I've learned that they're exciting and they're fun. They're maybe not quite so ridiculous anymore. The Stairs one I still think is a little ridiculous. But when kids start showing up over the next few years, I won't think it'll be ridiculous. I'll be in her parents' shoes, excited to see the excitement on my kids' faces. And that's why I think traditions are important. Thank you.